Good morning, Earthlings. How you doing today? Welcome back to First Contact. Hope you had a really good weekend. All right, time is moving on, and here we are into getting along in August. We're already into the second half of August now. Year's just moving right along. Before we know it, it's going to be December 21st. I believe it's 120 some odd days away. So we're getting close. All right, space weather. Starting off our cosmic weather for today. Solar wind is at 574.4 kilometers per second. It's blowing pretty good today. Planetary K-index is up to a 2, possibility of getting up to a 4. And we got our coronal hole here. It's expanded a little bit. Looks like it's possibly all one big hole. And the question is, with such an angle like this, is this part of our triangle that's underneath? I don't know. Time will tell, right? M-class flare possibility, 20% chance. X-class flares down to 1%. And then if you're in the high latitudes, you got a chance you're going to see some sort of activity, 30% minor, 25% severe. But in the mid latitudes, not really much of anything. We get this red sprites above the Earth. In the realm of the meteors and the non-translucent clouds, a strange and beautiful form of lightning dances at the edge of space, called sprites. Pretty cool looking, huh? Alright. And there you go. That's our cosmic or space weather astrologically. We're right here dealing with the moon sign of Aries. Moon sign of Libra. I don't know why I saw Aries. Moon sign of Libra right there. Libra is an air sign. So air is about communication. In this regard, it's also about balance and karma, balancing things out. So the things that we say find balance in their counterpoints. And so there's the tarot card associated with Libra is justice. So there's an implied idea of self-imposed justice applied, and that would be on the unconscious mind today, right? And I'm still dealing with fire sign, just about ready to switch things over into the next sign. And moving forward here, we have the moon phase. We've gone past the new moon now. We're 11% up, heading towards the full moon. And then on the Mayan Oracle, we're at a 6-tone day. A 6-tone day is called the rhythmic tone of equality. 6s, 1s, and 11s. Each of those tones, remember that the daykin and the guide are the same for today. So today we have the seed as the daykin and also as the guide. So today would be called the rhythmic seed, guided by the seed. Our position here in the wave spell is right here. Just a reminder, we are in a wave spell called the Blue Storm, and it's a 13-day period of time. So over the course of this week, we're going to be covering Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, these 5 days right here, from the seed all the way to the star. That's the path we're walking this week. And this is the particular day, and these are the supporting cast around this particular day. So each one of these you can kind of hone in a little bit more to understand the energy. It's a pretty cool system. The more you get to know it and understand it, because there's so many layers you can really look and understand. It's kind of like life, there's so many layers to it. Okay, the phrase for today is I organize in order to target balancing awareness. I seal the input of flowering with the rhythmic tone of equality. I am guided by my own power doubled. On the Gregorian calendar is Monday, August 20th, 2012. So there you have it, cosmic weather for today. Alright, so first story up is going to be about understanding different forms of government. The reason I'm playing this and going to see if I can follow a theme of this nature during the course of the week. We have in the United States some big events coming up. The Republican National Convention, the Democratic National Convention, then there's going to be the debates and the presidential finally the presidential race. So we're getting closer. All of these things are going to be happening between now and November 3rd. So we've got a lot of stuff in a short period of time. Now, here in the United States, we live according to a form of government that we think is an operation, which unfortunately isn't the kind of government that we really think it is. You see, our United States became a corporation back in the late 1800s. And so the rules that apply during a corporation are not the same as would apply to other forms of government. So we, the bottom line of all my rambling here, is we as a people of this country need to understand the different types of government, kind of take ourselves back to school for some history lessons, to remind ourselves what's out there so we can truly look at the system that we have and know whether it is effective or not, to know whether or not it's a real system or what's going on. Because the more that we know, the better. And maybe the adults are the ones who need to go back to school and learn, because they're the ones who can really take action to do some things. A lot more than the kids can at this point. Kids are kind of limited with what they're able to do. So let's just go to this piece here. Understanding different forms of government. Here we go.
When Benjamin Franklin exited the Constitutional Convention, he was asked by a woman, "Sir, what have you given us?" His immediate response was, "A republic, ma'am, if you can keep it." Yet most Americans today have been persuaded that our nation's governmental system is a democracy and not a republic. The difference between these two is essential in understanding Americanism and the American system. Before we discuss political systems, however, it's helpful to address the confusion that has been spread about the political spectrum. Many have been led to believe that the political spectrum places groups such as communists on the far left, fascists or dictators on the far right, and political moderates or centrists in the middle. However, a more accurate political spectrum will show government having zero power on the far right to having 100% power on the far left. At the extreme right, there is no government. The extreme left features total government under such labels as communism, socialism, Nazism, fascism, princes, potentates, dictators, kings, any form of total government. Those who claim that Nazis and fascists are right-wing never define their terms. This amounts to spreading confusion. Toward the middle of the political spectrum can be found the type of government limited to its proper role of protecting the rights of the people. That's where the Constitution of the United States is. Those who advocate such a form of government are really constitutional moderates. So let's analyze the basic forms of government. They are monarchy or dictatorship ruled by one, oligarchy ruled by a few, democracy ruled by a majority, republic ruled by law, and anarchy, which is ruled by no one. In discussing these five, we'll see that they can be narrowed down to even fewer. Looking first at monarchy or dictatorship, this form of government doesn't really exist in the practical sense. It's always a group that puts one of its members up front. A king has his council of nobles or earls, and every dictator has his bureaucrats or commissars, the men behind the scenes. This isn't ruled by one, even though one person may be the visible leader. It's ruled by a group. So let's eliminate monarchy, dictatorship, because it never truly exists. Oligarchy, which is ruled by a group, is the most common form of government in all history. And it is the most common form of government today. Most of the nations of the world are ruled by a powerful few, and therefore oligarchy remains. At the other end, we find anarchy, which means without government. Some people have looked over history and found that many of its worst crimes were committed by governments. So they decided that having no government might be a good idea. But this is a mistake, because as the ancient Greeks stated, without law there can be no freedom. Our founding fathers agreed and held that some amount of government is a necessary force in any civilized, orderly society. In a state of anarchy, however, everyone has to guard life, liberty, and property, and the lives of family members. Everyone must be armed, and movement is severely restricted because one's property has to be protected at all times. Civilized people have always hired someone to do the guarding, a sheriff, a police force, or some branch of government. Once law enforcement was in place, the people were freer. They could leave their property, work in the fields, and so on. In short, the proper amount of government makes everyone freer. There are some who advocate anarchy, however, not because they want no government, but because they don't like what they have. They use anarchy as a tool for revolutionary change. The condition of anarchy is very much like a vacuum where something rushes in to fill it. These calculating anarchists work to break down the existing government with rioting, killing, looting, and terrorism. Tragically, the people living in such chaos often go to those best able to put an end to it and beg them to take over and restore order. And who is best able to put an end to the chaos? The very people who started it. The anarchists who created the problem then create a government run by them, an oligarchy, where they have total power. This is exactly what happened in Russia that led to Lenin taking total power, and in Germany where Hitler's brown shirts created the chaos that brought him to power. But anarchy isn't a stable form of government. It's a quick transition from something that exists to something desired by the power-hungry. It's a temporary condition, and because it isn't permanent, we eliminate it as well. The word democracy comes from two Greek words, demos, meaning people, and kratein, meaning to rule. Democracy, therefore, means the rule of the people, majority rule. This, of course, sounds good, but suppose the majority decides to take away one's home, or business, or children. Obviously, there has to be a limit. The flaw in democracy is that the majority isn't restrained. If more than half the people can be persuaded to want something in a democracy, they rule. What about republic? Well, that comes from the Latin, res meaning thing, and publica meaning public. It means the public thing, the law. A true republic is one where the government is limited by law, leaving the people alone. America's founders had a clean slate to write on. They could have set up an oligarchy. In fact, there were some who wanted George Washington to be their king. But the Founding Fathers knew history, and they chose to give us the rule of law in a republic, not the rule of a majority in a democracy. Why? Let's demonstrate the difference in the setting of the Old West. Consider a lynch mob in a democracy. 35 horseback riders chase one lone gunman. They catch him, and they vote 35 to 1 to hang him. Democracy has triumphed, and there's one less gunman to contend with. Now consider the same scenario in a republic. The 35 horseback riders catch the gunman and vote 35 to 1 to hang him, but the sheriff arrives, and he says, "You can't kill him. He's got his right to a fair trial." So they take the gunman back to town. A jury of his peers is selected, and they hear the evidence and the defense, and they decide if he shall hang. Does the jury even decide by majority rule? No, it has to be unanimous, or he goes free. The rights of the government aren't subject to majority rule, but to the law. This is the essence of a republic. Many Americans would be surprised to learn that the word democracy does not appear in the Declaration of Independence or the U.S. Constitution, nor does it appear in any of the constitutions of the 50 states. The founders did everything they could to keep us from having a democracy. James Madison, rightly known as the father of the Constitution, wrote in essay number 10 of the Federalist Papers, "Democracies have ever been spectacles of turbulence and contention, have ever been found incompatible with personal security or the rights of property, and have in general been as short in their lives as they have been violent in their deaths." Alexander Hamilton agreed, and he stated, "We are a republican government. Real liberty is never found in despotism or in the extremes of democracy." Samuel Adams, a signer of the Declaration of Independence, stated, "Democracy never lasts long. It soon wastes, exhausts, and murders itself." The founders had good reason to look upon democracy with contempt, because they knew that the democracies in the early Greek city-states produced some of the wildest excesses of government imaginable. In every case, they ended up with mob rule, then anarchy, and finally tyranny under an oligarchy. During that period in Greece, there was a man named Solon who urged creation of a fixed body of law not subject to majority whims. But where the Greeks never adopted Solon's wise counsel, the Romans did. Based on what they knew of Solon's laws, they created the 12 tables of the Roman law and in effect built a republic that limited government power and left the people alone. Since government was limited, the people were free to produce, with the understanding that they could keep the fruits of their labor. In time, Rome became wealthy and the envy of the world. In the midst of plenty, however, the Roman people forgot what freedom entailed. They forgot that the essence of freedom is the proper limitation of government. When government power grows, people freedom recedes. Once the Romans dropped their guard, power-seeking politicians began to exceed the powers granted them in the Roman Constitution. Some learned that they could elect politicians who would use government power to take property from some and give it to others. Agriculture subsidies were introduced, followed by housing and welfare programs. Inevitably, taxes rose and controls over the private sector were imposed. Soon, a number of Rome's producers could no longer make ends meet, and they went on the dole. Productivity declined, shortages developed, and mobs began roaming the streets, demanding bread and circuses from the government. Many were induced to trade freedom for security. Eventually, the whole system came crashing down. They went from a republic to a democracy and ended up with an oligarchy under a progression of the Caesars. Thus, democracy itself is not a stable form of government. Instead, it is the gradual transition from limited government to the unlimited rule of an oligarchy. Knowing this, we as Americans are ultimately left with only two choices. We can keep our republic, as Franklin put it, or we will inevitably end up with an oligarchy, a tyranny of the elite.
This is the UFO News with Joshua Poet.
All right, Dirk, thank you very much. This is UFO News for today. Let me get over to it. All right, the first sighting comes to us from New York, August 18th. All right, we could see, looks like a series of objects. They could possibly be part of one larger craft. This could be the point light, or they could be, multiple different objects. I don't know. Let's see. Strange lights emerging from a power plant and up into outer space. Alright, I wish I got the beginning of this on film. Alright, here we go. Let's see what we have. Alright, pretty cool. So yeah, these definitely look like they could all be part of, well, these certainly could be, they look like they're spaced out enough, huh? To be part of a triangle object. But it looks like a really big craft if it's all the same. They look like they're all moving uniform. Alright, so there you go. That's our first sighting over New York on the 18th. Next we go to Mexico. Alright, object in question. We've seen that plenty of times. Alright. It says, watch this great video. This is what I like to see in a cell phone UFO video. I see a person recording the video to pan out so we can see the ground and the sky and get some perspective on things. The person also looks around and shows that he is on the rooftop of an apartment and the tops of other nearby, so people watching, recording with this UFO with their cell phones. Alright, so here we go. So, okay, object in question. Certainly seen this kind before. Alright, let's move forward here. Alright, there you go. You can see a little bit more of a zoom out. See other people up there taking the pictures. So it's not just one person sighting it, it's a lot of people. Alright. So you go. That's over Mexico. Next, we have a sighting over. This might be the same thing here. This is also over Mexico.
En el estado de Querétaro, Eduardo Escoto, quien nos va a dar a conocer los avistamientos también más recientes en aquella localidad. Eduardo, te saludo, buenas tardes.
Buenas tardes, Johanan, a todo el auditorio y al equipo de Tercer Milenio Noticias.
Pues muchas gracias, Eduardo. ¿Qué nos tienes hoy?
Bien, Johanan, pues tenemos una entrevista bastante interesante porque son dos testigos que pudieron lograr obtener pues una fotografía, en especial uno de ellos fue el que tomó la fotografía, y esta fotografía, bueno, pues la toman en lo que es un estacionamiento aquí en la ciudad de Querétaro, pero lo curioso de esta fotografía es que fue tomada alrededor de las 6:30 de la tarde, exactamente cuando estaba la puesta del sol, y en la parte de arriba de la fotografía podemos ver que incluso está bastante nublado, como estos días aquí en nuestro país. Y pues bueno, en esta fotografía se puede ver una esfera luminosa que, al decir del testigo, bueno, pues no podría tratarse de la luna por la luminosidad que presentaba el mismo objeto, además de que la luna, bueno, pues no estaría a esa hora en esa posición, Johanan.
Así es, ¿qué te parece si vamos a ver el reporte que nos has enviado, que has preparado para Tercer Milenio Noticias, y que la gente se dé cuenta y conozca también a esta persona quien logró captar esta imagen? Vamos a ver.
Amigos de Tercer Milenio, mi nombre es Eduardo Escoto y nos encontramos en el Cerro de las Campanas. A mis espaldas se encuentra la entrada al legendario túnel de Querétaro. Y desde este punto vamos a ver si les parece un interesante testimonial de la presencia de objetos voladores no identificados aquí en la ciudad de Querétaro, porque sin duda se han dado continuamente. ¿Qué tal? Bueno, pues nos encontramos con la persona que tomó la fotografía de este objeto anómalo en el cielo.
6.5 minutes. So there's a bit more there. All right, this next piece here, extraterrestrial red cells rain down in India, says scientists. The mysterious color of water falling on the morning of June 28, 2012 is due to tonic-stropic particles of biological cells looking likely of alien origin. Red rain, it is said to represent metaphorically what can happen, what cannot happen. Well, maybe we should revise our stereotypes, as in India, showers colors, including the most unlikely ruby, are becoming a bit too frequent. The latter was recorded by the local news of the city of Kannur and city of Karya on the morning of June 28th. According to reports, residents have witnessed quite disturbed to a burst of red rain. And it was not the first time. A previous similar phenomena had occurred in the area in July of 2001, just hours after the alleged explosion in the sky, a meteor. Later, had been reported over 120 cases of unusual rainstorms, to say the least, with a drop of yellow, green, even black. According to two scientists, those micro believe that alien life forms have unique features, not only are able to metabolize organic and inorganic material, but they seem to grow better in extreme temperatures. Their existence proves that life on Earth was created just like that, with similar single-celled organisms coming from somewhere aboard comets, asteroids, and rocky debris. In other words, prove that the validity of the so-called theory of panspermia. Okay, so let's see here. Very interesting. And there's a lot more to the article you could see here, but there you go. Shows things going on. This is the rain here coming down to India. Not normal colored. Alright. So something is coming down, brought down in the rain from there. Okay. This story here, if you have been studying the UFOs for any period of time, you certainly have heard this name, Stanton Friedman. Well, here is Stanton Friedman's story. So if you don't know about Stanton, well, do some reading. Watch the video here. Are flying saucers real? Take a biological look at Stanton Friedman, who for the past 40 years has been the world's foremost investigator and lecturer on the UFO phenomena. Also credited with breaking the famous Roswell UFO case, he has authored over 7 UFO articles and is the author of 2 books, Crash at Corona and Top Secret Magic. And this video, see here, is 50 minutes in length. but well worth the watch. Stanton is very interesting. He's got a lot of great stories and certainly very knowledgeable. All right, and the very last report here, UFO sightings and alien encounters American Indians take very serious. I'll play this for you.
Nobody's ever taken any interest before. I mean, before we would do our work, be professional, file cases away, we'd lock them up, we'd lock them in the computer database so nobody else could, not even other officers could look at them. And we'd quietly go on with their lives.
Jonathan Redbird Dover and Stanley Milford have been dealing with UFO and paranormal cases for the past 10 years as Navajo Rangers. Not a lot of interest has been shown in their investigations until recently, when they attended the 2012 International UFO Congress. At the conference, the local Phoenix CBS affiliate took interest and ran a story about what the Rangers had been examining.
The lights blinked out after a few seconds, followed by a sonic boom, a black domed craft, and the entire town of Chinle losing power.
It's a whole new frontier, and we feel that we may be on the tip of just opening some doors here. I had a background in criminal investigations and was trained in criminal investigations. We tended to get those type of projects, and we both worked in that special projects area. And so when something came down the pipe, our chief would turn around and say, I want you guys to handle this.
It's not that we have, like X-Files, a section that deals with that type of thing. We're dealing, 98% of regular day-to-day law enforcement. It's that small percentage of cases that we get every year that deals with something that's unusual.
Dover recently retired as a Ranger, having served 31 years. He is, however, still involved with his former partner Milford, who shares the passion for investigating these events and carries on with the assignment. Recently, both men spoke at a monthly meeting held by the Phoenix chapter of MUFON.
But I think it just goes back to a lack of understanding that, we're not here to sensationalize this. We're not here to sell an idea or belief or that type of thing. We're here to share information.
The first big case was we had not a UFO, but a Bigfoot sighting. And this was up in the Bloomfield area of New Mexico along the San Juan River. We had over 30 witnesses that had reported a Bigfoot, seeing one or hearing something unusual. The whole community up there was very scared and very upset. They went to the local police department, and the police lieutenant there put in the paper, I wonder how much these people have had to drink, and laughed about it and thought it was a great joke. As a result, it alienated everybody in the community.
Treatment like this from the media and other law enforcement agencies has isolated witnesses from coming forward with what they've seen. Having an open mind and the ability to listen allows Dover and Milford to record these stories and connect with the witnesses. Open Minds will be traveling north soon to ride along with the Rangers for a first-hand glimpse of how they operate and investigate these occurrences.
It's about your mind. And are you going to sit there and box it in and keep that construct in there and say, this is where I am and I'm not going to entertain anything else? Or are you going to open that mind and say, yeah, there's other things out there. I may not believe in them from a faith standpoint, but I can show evidence that there's something else going on here.
What if our government was responsible for some of the greatest crimes against this nation? Would you really want to know? These are big questions, but these questions deserve answers. It's time to demand the truth.
People shouldn't be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of them.
9/11 was an inside job. Kennedy was killed by the CIA. Jimmy Carter saw UFO. Answers to secrets you need to know. So wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up.
All right, continuing on. I got a bunch more here for you. All right, next one. Ron Paul, 2 stories. Ron Paul, federal debt, biggest threat to every American. Here we go.
Hello, this is Ron Paul with your weekly message for August 20th. Grover Norquist, the influential conservative activist, recently made some very frank and sobering remarks about the U.S. military budget. Unlike many conservatives, Mr. Norquist understands that American national security interests are not served by the interventionist foreign policy mindset that has dominated both political parties in recent decades. He also understands that there is nothing conservative about incurring trillions of dollars in debt to engage in hopeless nation-building exercises overseas. Speaking at the Center for the National Interest last week, Norquist stated that, quote, "We can afford to have an adequate national defense which keeps us free and safe and keeps everybody afraid to throw a punch at us as long as we don't make some of the decisions that previous administrations have, which is to overextend ourselves and think we can run foreign governments." He continues, and Bush decided to be the mayor of Baghdad rather than the president of the United States. He decided to occupy Iraq and Afghanistan rather than reform Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. That had tremendous consequences. Richard Nixon said that America's national defense needs are set in Moscow, meaning that we wouldn't have to spend so much if they weren't shooting at us. The guys who followed didn't notice that the Soviet Union disappeared, close quote. When a prominent D.C. conservative like Grover Norquist makes such bold statements, it shows that public support for a truly conservative foreign policy is growing. The American people simply cannot stomach more war and more debt, especially with our domestic economy in tatters. The American people should reject the hype about so-called defense cuts from both sides of the political spectrum. When the Obama administration calls for an 18% increase in 2013 military spending, those who propose a 20% increase portray this as a reduction. Even the supposedly draconian cuts called for in the sequestration budget would keep military spending at 2006 level when adjusted for inflation, which is about as high in terms as GDP as during World War II. It also more than tops the 13 foreign countries spend on defense combined. Further, sequestration only cuts military spending for 1 year after taking effect. In future years, Congress is free to reinstate higher military spending levels. So under sequestration, the most drastic case would mean spending $5.2 trillion instead of $5.7 trillion over the next 10 years. Is there any amount of money that would satisfy the Pentagon hawks? Even if we were to slash our military budget in half, America easily would remain the world's dominant military power. Our problems don't result from a lack of spending. They result from a lack of vision and a profound misunderstanding of the single biggest threat to every American man, woman, and child, the federal debt. Thanks for calling. A new update is placed on this number, 888-322-1414, every Monday. The written text can be found at www.house.gov/Paul under the heading Texas Straight Talk. Thanks for calling.
Hey, everybody, don't miss Paul Festival. August 24th through the 26th at the Tampa State Fairgrounds. www.paulfestival.org. Make sure you're there. Hey, everybody, don't miss.
All right, very good, very good. Paul Festival coming up. Got another piece on Ron Paul. This is Matt Larson 10. He always has a lot of good information, keeping everybody informed and updated. So he has a good question. You know, can Ron Paul still win? That's a question that comes up a lot. So he addresses this, and here you go. Hope this answer satisfies you.
Hey, welcome back everyone. I am Matt Larson 10, and I'm going to answer a question that I get 5+ times a day, whether it's on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, all these other things, and that is, can Ron Paul still win? The message always goes like this: hey Matt, I really support what you're doing and I thank you for fighting so hard for the movement, but can Ron Paul still win? That's what I need to know. Should I give up? And my answer to that is no. You shouldn't give up. It's not over. Have we gone down to Tampa? Have we had the RNC yet? No. That is where Ron Paul can win. And I think that the Paul campaign is planning on something pretty big. Otherwise, why are they spending their hard-earned money from us? And when I say their, I mean the people's donations money on getting delegates down there if they don't think that they can get something done with the delegates down there. They have a plan. We need to stay the course with them and don't give up hope. Ron Paul can still win, but it's only with the help from the delegates. So if the delegates give up, we might as well all give up and just go vote Ron Paul and write him in, because you know what, it's not going to matter because he's not going to get the nomination without the delegates. We need our delegates to go down to Tampa, support Ron Paul, vote Ron Paul in the first ballot, and get him into office. So, yeah, Ron Paul can win, but then that's half the battle also. We need to continue working on the neoconish people out there, showing them that if you want to win, you need to vote Ron Paul come November. Because a lot of these people say Ron Paul's kooky and crazy. I'm not going to vote for Ron Paul. He wants Israel to be blown off the map and blah, 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 and just all this other garbage about how America's not safe with Ron Paul as a president and commander-in-chief. America would be the safest it's ever been if we took all our troops home from overseas. But I'm going to stop preaching because you guys know that. So there's really 2 steps into how we can get Ron Paul into office. 1, support the delegates and make sure the delegates go down to Tampa, vote Ron Paul. And 2, keep working on all your friends and family that still don't know about Ron Paul or think that he's crazy, and working on them for the general election. Because if we can't get the majority of the Republicans to vote for Ron Paul, it's going to be hard to win, because we'll probably pull 20% Democrats away from Obama. And we'll probably take the majority of the independent vote, but we still need that GOP base. So those are how we can get Ron Paul in. I hope that you understand, and if you have any questions, please leave them in a text or video response down below. I ask that you thumbs up this video and share it with friends and family. The more people that see this, they'll realize Ron Paul can still win. It's not over. Tampa hasn't happened yet. It's coming up very soon, but it's not over. Don't give up hope. Don't stop fighting ever. If you're new to my videos, make sure you click that subscribe button so you can stay up to date on all the current Ron Paul news. As always, I'm Matt Larson 10. Go Ron Paul. Peace.
All right, so, in it to win it, in it to win it. He's in it to win it. And so just keep believing out there, a good positive message. One thing about what has come out of this whole Ron Paul movement are people that are not just wanting to support the man, but people who are actually understanding the issues, because Ron Paul really made sure people understood the Constitution. Look at the Constitution. Look at the laws around you that are being put in place. And he stood by his integrity. And so a Ron Paul supporter is going to stand by that same integrity, and that's great, because we need to have a country of people continuing to stand by their integrity and stand by what they say, and that's important. Sellout politicians aren't any good. I mean, look at his son. His son's only been in for a short period of time compared to his dad, and his son's already jumped ship. He didn't stand for what he believed. So, we need that. We need those kind of heroes in life to stand for what they say. All right, here we go. Agencies tamp down speculation over hollow point ammo purchases. Obscure federal agencies triggered a firestorm of conspiracy theories this week after they put out orders for thousands of rounds of deadly hollow point bullets. But the agencies most recently, the Social Security Administration, are trying to damper on the speculation, noting the ammunition is standard issue and simply used for mandatory federal training sessions. Our special agents need to be armed and trained appropriately, said a message on the official blog for the Social Security Inspector's General Office explaining the purchase. The bullet purchases, okay, well, there's more to the article. Anyway, two things about it. One, it comes from Fox News. And do they need hollow point bullets to practice with? Again, comes from Fox News, this article here. So take it for what it's will, right? Take it for that. All right, here's another one. GOP newsletter calls for armed revolution if Obama reelected. The Greene County, Virginia Republican Committee publishes a monthly newsletter for members called the Constitutional Conservatives. The newsletter is heavy on Tea Party rhetoric and how Obama and the liberals are ruining America and so forth. But even by these standards, an item in the March newsletter stands out. In the White House Watchdog column, editor Ponch McGee says that America cannot survive 4 more years under Obama, a political socialist ideologue who is unlike anything world history has ever witnessed or recognized. McPhee argues that Americans will have no option but armed revolution should we fail with the power of the vote in November. We have before us a challenge to remove an ideologue unlike anything world history has ever, an individual who has come to power within a nation which yields its strength over the entire world, an elected leader who shuns biblical praise, handicap economic ability, disrespects the honor of the earned military might. In the coming days and weeks, we the people must come to grasp as a common force our very souls that the future as a sovereign nation is indeed at risk. If every single individual that you know would contact 25 other individuals, we can make a difference that will be heard around the Commonwealth and in Washington. The ultimate task for people is to remain vigilant and aware that their government is out of control, and that this moment, this opportunity must not be forsaken, must not escape us, for we shall not have any course but armed revolution should we fail with the power of the vote in November. The Republic cannot survive 4 more years underneath the political socialist ideologue. Well, okay. So, is this really a, what do you think of this? This is a newsletter. Sounds like something with a sense of urgency. And it kind of sounds like something you would have heard perhaps from the Founding Fathers. I mean, for a long time we've been saying that there's a problem, and isn't that what they are recognizing in this letter? That there is a problem? They're not saying that war is inevitable. They're saying if we continue this course that we're on, okay? If we continue the course of a man in office who is not an American, who does not have the same ideals, we're going to be going down the wrong path. What kind of plans does Obama have in mind? He's signed different executive orders that have, put more chains and prisons around Americans. Are these things he's going to apply in his second term? Is there more graphic violence and activities and things that are going to be taking place under his watch? I don't know. But the world's changing drastically, and here's another sign of that people are standing up. So, very important. And people will continue to stand up. All right. Here's something. Anti-Obama Navy SEAL leader. I'm a birther, he says. President Barack Obama is a socialist who was raised by communists and wasn't born in the United States, according to the former Navy SEAL who founded the group Special Operations Speaks, SOS, which aims to portray Obama as anti-military in this election season. Earlier this week, a group of former Navy SEALs calling themselves the Special Operations OPSEC Education Fund rolled out its campaign to criticize Obama for leaking national security information and taking what it believes as undue credit for the killing of Osama bin Laden. That group claims to be non-political. But the founder of the SOS, a similar group with the same mission and the same tactics, says that has no problem admitting that he is against Obama's politics, personality, and believes that America's current president is lying about his origins. I have to admit that I'm a birther, said SOS founder Larry Bailey, a retired 27-year veteran of the Navy SEALs. In an interview, if there were just a jury of 12 good men and women and the evidence were placed before them, there would be absolutely no question Barack Obama was not born where he said he was and is not who he says he is. There you go, Navy SEAL. Again, another piece of the puzzle. Now, is this going to make any news? Is this going to, get out there in a great way? It'd be nice. It'd be nice if this was, because more and more people are questioning. All right. All right. Now, let's look at. Let's jump over here. Scientists. This was interesting. Scientists store a thick book with images and software in DNA. Welcome to the future. For the first time ever, scientists have successfully stored a 300-page book in DNA. The book contains 53,000 words, 11 images, and a software program. It is the largest amount of data yet stored artificially using the genetic material. Money and storage capacity are two of the reasons why scientists believe it is good to store information in DNA. DNA can be used to store information at a density about 1 million times greater than your hard drive, report researchers in Science today. The cost of DNA coding is dropping very fast. Scientists expect that within the 5 to 10 years it could be cheaper to store information using this method than a conventional digital devices. Scientists have previously managed to store non-biological information in DNA, but not such a large amount. That's pretty fascinating. You can see there's more to the article here. I got a video describing and explaining it a bit more. But advances in science, pretty amazing. Okay, and continuing on, listen to this one Disney has going on. Disney developing physical face cloning. Okay, scientists employed by the Walt Disney Company have developed technology that allows them to replicate with near-perfect accuracy the very versatile human face. Documents posted on the official Disney Research website detail plans for what they refer to as physical face cloning. We propose a complete process for designing, simulating, and fabricating synthetic skin for an animatronics character that mimics the face of a given subject and its expression. Pretty interesting. Now, they just said about a robot, right? They can put this face on a robot. Check this story out, coming from another location. Synthetic police are coming. DARPA engineering autonomous robots. So now they got a robot, and Disney has the technology that they could put a face on that robot that looks just like you. And with the facial recognition software, you probably don't even have to be present to get that picture and your face recognized with the software. It just needs to take any image of you, I'd imagine. Okay, because of the risk involved in rescue aid workers and human response teams, DARPA awarded Boston Dynamics a $10.9 million contract to manufacture humanoid robots that are bipedal, built like humans, and have a sensor head with onboard computing capabilities. Completion of the project is expected for August 2014. It says robots are being created to assist in evacuation and rescue missions. They can also be employed to evacuation operations during either man-made or national disasters. So, just like the movies, right? All these things. So, let's remember the lessons that we learned in some of these movies, because there were good lessons, right? That with this technology of these robots, that we don't want to let them get too out of control, that there is something that we can learn there, but we need to pay attention, because how many movies do we have where robots have gotten out of control and we've had to deal with them? And now here we are. We see more and more of this type of science becoming a reality. All right. Olympic closing ceremony. These are some interesting images here. It says, how everyone was talking about a false flag at the Olympics. Well, what if these shootings were the false flags because of the future gun control laws and the planning of martial law in America? Everyone was too distracted with all the gold medals and beating China in the Olympics. So is it just a conspiracy? Okay, so here's some interesting things. Okay, the Colorado thing brought up the idea of Batman and Robin. The Joker, they played off the theme, right? Then we got interesting how his hair was like this, and here's some dancers here. And then here, other Olympic dancers here. Look at this. It says, for the Sikh temple shooting. You got red hairs all there. Okay, you got the images of the eye, just like here, above the all pyramid. And this one, look at this one. A lot of effort has gone to mimic this. Here you've got this whole image, right, where you got the square and the compass, the eye in the middle. Okay, you got the square, the compass. Here you got the phoenix, the wings of the phoenix, right here on fire. Right here and right here, you've got the fireworks going off. I mean, 1, 2, 3, you know. Someone went to a lot of effort to see that this image here was replicating this image here. A lot of work went into that. So, something went on behind the scenes with the Olympics. These things happen without people knowing. That's how they work. Now, some people say, oh, that's a conspiracy theory. And it could be. But, you know, the whole idea of theories, conspiracy theories, the word is just kind of nonsensical. Because people, you know, the 9/11 Commission report, wasn't that a conspiracy theory? They put that out there, it couldn't be proved, and that's what they put before the people. But this is an article from InfoWars talking about the subject. Subject is why people reject conspiracy theories. Saman Mohammadi. Okay. On his Infowars.com website, Jones headlines his page with, "Because there is a war on for your mind." True enough, which is why science and reason must always prevail over fear and irrationality, and conspiracy fear-mongering traffics in the latter at the expense of the former. Michael Shermer, Why People Believe in Conspiracy Theories, Scientific American, August 18th, 2012. The repression and the revised imposition of September 11th and the attendant war on terror and the public mind have important implications not only for the integrity of public disclosure, but also for the collective sanity of Western culture and civilization. As crafted by the dominant news media, 9/11 has become the cracked lens through which we view and conceive our own history, identity, and purpose. Each act of subverting or evading factual accounts of actually existing events manifests itself as a small fissure in the broad edifice of truth and rationality. So does it always contribute to furthering the designs of broad forces seeking to build a once seemingly pretend brave new world? That was Professor James F. Tracy of Global Research. So it says the mocking of conspiracy theories in the American press and the Western media is based on the simplistic argument that the reason is on the side of the government and officialdom, not on the fringe of society and civilization. Anti-conspiracy proponents ludicrously claim that conspiracy theorists are prey to paranormal and irrational thinking without explaining their own faulty reasoning. They put a huge emphasis on labels and none on facts, but they're not unique. Apparently, name-calling is enough to win a court case in the 21st century courtroom. Let's set aside the mockery and look at the real picture. In the court of the world public opinion, 9/11 truth has already won. The truth is that 9/11 conspiracy theorists are not irrational party in the debate about what happened on 9/11, for the facts of history are on their side, and no one with an honest intellect can say otherwise. Since most people are not persuaded by facts, but by fear, they blindly reject the truth about 9/11 and accuse truth-tellers of being irrational, conspiratorial, and paranoid. In addition to fear, there are 4 other reasons why people reject conspiracy theories in a wholesale manner, especially the fact-based claims made by global 9/11 truth and justice movement. So here's 4 reasons: fear, ignorance, a false sense of superiority, collective brainwashing. But the list goes on. Institutional silence and cover-up. All right, so it's a good article here. That's kind of it, you know. We have situations that go on in the world where information is out there, and I find that those who are truth seekers, that are labeled as conspiracy theorists, they're labeled that simply out of fear. And usually those who are investigating spend a good deal of time investigating. There is such a body of evidence against 9/11, what has happened, by real researchers, scientific researchers. It's just amazing. And when you put that body of work up against the 9/11 Commission report, the 9/11 Commission report's a joke. It doesn't even stand up to the basics of mathematics or science. And yet, even though it doesn't stand up to those standards, Most people still believe that to be a real document because they're too afraid to look. They're too afraid to know otherwise because they think if they do, the government's going to come knocking on the door saying, oh, you think about 9/11? You have some thoughts opposite than what we said? So, fear. Got to be brave. That's the step then. That's how we overcome the problem. If fear is the problem, then we must overcome it. What is that saying? There's nothing to fear but fear itself. There's nothing to fear but fear itself. What is fear? False expectations appearing real. Just close your eyes, relax. Imagine you're taking a journey into yourself. Imagine yourself walking like you're walking into a cave, and that cave represents your mind, your consciousness. And as you enter the cave and enter the darkness of the cave, you step slowly because you cannot see what is around you. And because you cannot see what is around you, you find yourself feeling afraid. And as you feel afraid, you start to move slower, and you begin to huddle closer to yourself. And eventually you stop moving, frozen with fear. And in that moment, as you stand there frozen in fear, you suddenly realize there is nothing that has posed a threat to you. That every bit of fear that has just been imagined has simply been imagined. So you gather up your strength, and you stand up straight, and you slowly look around the space into the darkness. And as you do, you hear the silence. And as you look around and your eyes begin to adjust, you could see the vast emptiness of this space and see that there is no one around you. And you realize there is nothing to be afraid of. And as you let go of this fear, you begin to feel even stronger. And as you continue to grow in strength, you find that the chains of doubt and fear that have been holding you back release themselves. And you feel lighter. And as you begin your journey out of this cave back into the world, you carry with you this information from inside that fear is not an option, because fear is just an illusion. And that faith and love will allow us to see things as they truly are. And once we see things for what they are, we become strengthened. So imagine yourself walking along the path of life, seeing others walking along who have also experienced the same thing. And notice how everyone feels much stronger. And collectively, there is a strength amongst the group, because all of those walking have let go of their fears, and everyone is seeing things clearly, truthfully. So let's hold this idea of fearlessness in our hearts as we make our way in the world today. And with that, we bring our energy and attention back to the present moment on the count of 3. 3, coming back to the present moment filled with confidence. 2, coming back to the present moment filled with faith. 1, coming back to the present moment happy, healthy, and whole. Happy, healthy, and whole. Let's go ahead and open our eyes. That's the end of our show, our prayer meditation for today, my friends. Thank you for being here. I'll be back tomorrow with more news information. Stay tuned. Watch the videos for today. Read the stories. There's more information than what I got to. And we'll talk soon. Peace. I'm out of here.